Just got to say thank you so much to everyone who showed us some love at our Saints vs. Cardinals preseason week 1 watch party. We had over 42,000 people tune in. 387 people joined our squad, so welcome to those 387 new subscribers. And now we're on the road to 30K because we crossed 29,000. So let's get there ASAP. Subscribe today if you want to join our next watch party against the 49ers, and also if you want some daily Saints videos. Got a lot to discuss here on the channel. Justin Simmons, there's a major update around him. And then, of course, we have some New Orleans Saints news that we have to dive into around training camp and the joint practices with the 49ers. But let's start off here with Justin Simmons. I'm going to be honest with you. When I first saw this, my first reaction was, oh, boop. Trying to keep it family friendly in the first couple of minutes. But here we are, the Falcons. They are hosting Justin Simmons, and it's going to be a 2-day visit. Last week, he did visit with the New Orleans Saints, and we have a recap that we're going to go through here in a second. But my initial thoughts and my initial reaction are, oh my God, could you imagine if Justin Simmons, we thought we had him, and then he goes to a division rival. The fact that would be the case, and he would pair up with Jesse Bates, and on top of that, you would have the fact that he's playing against you twice a year now. It just would suck. I would be really, really mad. But I do think that it's important to note that the visit, with the New Orleans Saints was actually pretty positive. And Dennis Allen said that last week. He said, I thought it was a good visit. And as you guys know, he had a visit in the morning or / during the afternoon with the New Orleans Saints out at UC Irvine, because that's where the Saints are having training camp. In the morning, he had a physical. Midday afternoon, they had a visit, and then that carried over into dinner throughout the evening. And there were reports that, oh my God, he left, he was gone, but he left without a deal. He was always scheduled to leave the following morning, and that was the case ahead of the visit and leading up to it. And I'm not at a point where I'm going to panic quite yet. And why I'm not going to panic is because Justin Simmons actually showed interest in the New Orleans Saints. The Saints didn't reach out to him. He reached out to New Orleans, and he is doing his due diligence. And Dennis Allen last week in a post-practice press conference even said this. I can't really tell you exactly where that stands. I think this is one of those deals where we had a chance to sit down and visit with him on a number of different fronts. Myself, Mickey Loomis, coaching staff, and even some of the players got to sit down with him, get him a feel for him, and him get a feel for us. And then we evaluate how that went. We evaluate it from our standpoint. I think he's going through the evaluation process from his standpoint. I'm sure there will be some communication from our people to his people, and we'll see. So when it comes to Justin Simmons, there's also a lot of connections to New Orleans. And we've shown this graphic before, but I think we just have to revisit it so that way everyone here can slow down, calm down, and maybe feel their heart rate drop a little bit. I panicked when I first saw the Atlanta Falcons visiting with Justin Simmons news, and I don't blame you for doing the exact same thing, but he does have a connection on the roster with Will Harris. And as we know, him and Tyrann Mathieu, they have a lot of mutual respect for each other. They are both very talented players, and they both, I think, would want to play together, in my personal opinion. I can see why Tyrann Mathieu would want to play with Justin Simmons. He's posted about him in the past. He's talked about him a lot on social media. But then there's also connections to Joe Woods and Marcus Robertson, who worked with him in Denver early in his career, and now both of those guys are here in New Orleans. So if you wanted to have a familiar face in the coaching staff, you got two guys right there. And then let's talk about the financials, because I do think that it's important to address this. Updated numbers that I looked at within the past couple of hours. The New Orleans Saints have roughly $10.7 million to spend, whereas the Falcons have $3.5 million. And that's a rough, about 3.5 and about 10.7. But I will say this, if the New Orleans Saints want Justin Simmons and they refuse to let the Atlanta Falcons get him, they could just outbid the Falcons. But what it's going to come down to, are the Falcons willing to give him more guaranteed money? Would he have a better role? What is that going to look like? Because I think that those are impactful things, and those are the questions that Justin Simmons should be asking the players, but also what his expectation and what he desires for those two teams. And again, it's just a visit. He went and visited with New Orleans, and he left without a deal. What's to say he can't do that with Atlanta too? What's to say that he's not just weighing out his options? Dennis Allen said it himself. He's going to be going through an evaluation process. That's what this is. It's an evaluation process. And if Justin Simmons has to go and visit with multiple teams, see what the best offer is, that's what you have to do. And when you're a top player, you should be doing that kind of thing. But again, I have to ask you this question. If he left New Orleans without a deal, what's to say Atlanta, he can't leave without a deal there as well? So I wouldn't hit the panic button quite yet. I think that this is going to be just a visit, and he does go home, and then we find out who he signs with here in the next few days, maybe even the following week. But I don't think a decision is going to happen right now, because the fact that the team he showed interest in, he left without a deal, and he wants to weigh his options, I think that's very telling, and I do think that it's not dead. I think that the Justin Simmons to Saints movement is still very much so alive. But I got to ask you this question. Who do you think will sign Justin Simmons? Just type S for Saints, type F for Falcons. Or if you think it's another team like the Colts or like the Eagles or something like that, comment that team in the comment section. And also, you'll find the link in the comment section and description of this video to some brand new hats. You can go get a 2024 sideline hat. We have a link for you, chatsports.com/Saints hats. I think these are actually so fresh. I'm going to be getting myself a lid here pretty soon. And on top of that, you can get all sorts of other different ones. You got the draft hat. I thought this one right here is really, really cool. You got the New Orleans over the cross stitched on. It's really, really nice. You can even get a bucket hat if you're hanging out by the pool. I know it's still super hot. And if you guys just need something to look good, feel good, and stay a little bit in the shade, we got you covered. Chatsports.com/Saints hats. All that information in the comments and description of this video. Let's get to an update around New Orleans Saints training camp and an update on practice. So the San Francisco 49ers, they actually canceled their joint practices with the New Orleans Saints this week. And why they're doing that? It's because of injury reasons. They're dealing with a plethora of injuries. And in the report, it said that, quote, they won't have the bodies to do the sessions right. And I do think that it's unfortunate that the New Orleans Saints aren't going to be able to have this joint practice, because I think it's a good litmus test, and I think it's a good gut check to see how good are they. And I'm also a firm believer that iron sharpens iron. So when a great team like the San Francisco 49ers can practice against a team that there's a lot of questions around in the New Orleans Saints, I think it only benefits the New Orleans Saints in this situation. And the 49ers, they have a lot of injuries, including Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Ricky Pearsall, the rookie wide receiver, Danny Gray, Fred Warner, just to name a few, Isaac Yiadom, you all remember him. He was really good last year, and John Feliciano. But then on top of that, they're dealing with a holdout from Trent Williams as he's trying to get some money, and Brandon Ayuk is holding in. He may get traded. We don't really know what's going on around that situation. But the 49ers, they have a lot that they're dealing with that doesn't even have to do with on-field reps and all the field practice. And, you know, I will say this, the Saints are banged up too. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I wish that this was happening, or, you know, let me rephrase. I do wish that this was happening, but I'm not going to sit here and say that they should try and force the practices to happen. When both teams are dealing with a lot of injuries, and we're not even into the regular season, call me crazy, but I think it's just worth not re-aggravating any injuries or further prolonging injury statuses for some players. Like the New Orleans Saints, just to name a few, Kendre Miller, Juwan Johnson, Rashid Shaheed, Equanimeous St. Brown, Mario Davis, Bub Means, Pete Werner, Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo. But then you also have guys like Mason Tipton, Trajan Jeffcoat, and some of these other lower depth chart guys that are fighting for roster spots that aren't going to be able to participate at a high level or at the absolute maximum level that they possibly could. And I will say that there is some positive injury news around a few of those guys. Kendre Miller, Demario Davis, and Juwan Johnson yesterday, they were working out on the side of the field. This coming in from Aaron Summers, who does a lot of coverage for the New Orleans Saints. Highly encourage you to go check out her page. She does a lot of really good stuff. But I do think it's important to get these three guys back, especially because Kendre Miller, we have seen the possibilities and we have seen the playmaking ability he has. It's just a matter of him being on the field. And if he can't be on the field, his roster spot will be lost. I'm not saying that they're going to cut Kendre Miller this year, but he's got a lot to prove. And if he's going to stay hurt, what's the point of having him on the team? And Demario Davis, Juwan Johnson, I want to see these two players back this year, or back soon, because I think this year they have a really big possibility to make a very positive impact. But we also have to get to an injury update. Don't worry, though. I know. Don't panic. It's going to be okay. Spencer Rattler, he was held out of practice yesterday But it was a precautionary move as he's dealing with a thigh contusion. And I do think when it comes to this player, it's important to not rush your quarterbacks back from injury. Jake Haener, he had some time off because he was getting a procedure done to remove some cancer from his face. And he was back at practice very, very quickly. I think that that's really smart, and I think it's really awesome to see him back. But the two of them are in a quarterback battle. And if one of these two guys wants to win the battle, one, you have to be healthy, and two, you got to put in reps. So you can't put in reps if you're not healthy, and you can't put in further reps and continue to develop and grow if you further injure yourself. So the reports from John Hendricks, though, I thought this was really cool. He was actually fighting to get out to go and practice. So he wants to play. He wants to be on the field, and he wants to get some snaps. I think that's really cool for Spencer Rattler. Both him and Jake Haener had phenomenal games in the preseason Week 1 matchup against Arizona. And I'm excited to see how this QB2 battle continues to progress. But I hate injuries. It's my least favorite part of sports entirely. And if you're with me, let's send some good vibes to the New Orleans Saints. Type health in the comment section if you want to see the team have some good health. And Saints fans, y'all stay golden. Again, if anything happens around Justin Simmons, we're going to keep you updated. Be sure to subscribe, hit the noti bell, and y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.